Hello, everybody. It's Monday, August 26th. It's 11 a.m. I would have started a tiny bit sooner, but we had, remember this is a three-person arrangement here for the producer, the stagehand, and the talent. Me, myself, and I. Yeah. Well, myself was fine, but I made a mistake. And YouTube bombed out because the description, there's an error in the description. So I found out what the error was. They didn't tell you exactly what the error was. It just said, oops. Literally, that's all it said. Oops. So, anyway, I figured it out. It's called trial and error. Mostly error. So here we are in our little studio here in downtown Boca Raton. I have my 6-foot table by 4 feet wide. I put a piece of blue tape all the way down the middle. I said, okay, that 2-foot by 6-foot table is yours. On this side, the 6-foot by 2-foot is Jimmy's. Do whatever you want with it. Please don't paint it pink or something. It's a desktop. So I made a little studio thing out of it. Studio. I have my soundboard. You can see my soundboard here next to my warm tea. I'm drinking warm tea now instead of hot coffee. It's hot tea with a bunch of half and half in it. It's nice. I like it. This is my ear dude's charging up. You can barely see the little green line on there. It's amazing. This camera is so sensitive. Let's turn the light down even more. There we go. You get all these little things lit up. So the soundboard is the Rodecaster Pro 2. Roman numeral 2. Rodecaster Pro Roman numeral 2. I figure what's better about it than the Roman numeral 1. They look about the same size. Better processing. That's the background. Academic, instrumental, royalty free. And I'm using an Electro Voice microphone up here. Back there is the time. That's an iPad Pro. That's Marilyn's. I just turned it around and put a clock on it. Yeah. So the camera zooms back behind my MacBook Pro. MacBook Air. It's a MacBook Pro computer, but there's no external fans. There's nothing blowing. It's got 24. I spec'd it pretty much as high as you could get it. 24 gigabytes of dedicated memory, which is huge. And it's solid aluminum case. I mean, it's amazing. It's thin. LCD panel. I put a black cloth on there so we don't gross Marilyn out. Everything's black napkins all over the place. Gives a nice little stealth look. And the rest of this is all, basically we've got a bunch of used iPads, which, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 iPads and my phone, which I have it. This is the time on air, 5 minutes, 34 seconds, 35, 36. I'm pointing at it right now. On air, Monday morning, 11:09. This is today's time. This is an even more accurate one, but this is one that shines through into the living room. In case we forget what day and time it is, which we don't, but what's the date today, sweetie? Oh, I got it right there. Here's my driver's license and the key to the Tesla. It's a card. I'll take it out real quick. This is a silicone case, really easy thing. There it is. This is the key that they give you, and this is control. This unlocks the car. It's as simple as that. I have my driver's license in there. Just what the heck? I wouldn't give this to the valet, of course. I wouldn't give my driver's license to the valet. No. I'll put a business card in there. Take the driver's license out of this. Put it. I'm getting another one of these in a couple of days from Amazon. Black and red ones with nothing on the back. This one, I tried to find where I got the Tesla ones. It's got the T on there. So with 4 old iPads, an iPhone, and a MacBook Air, you can create a little sound studio of your own. You know, if you need help doing it, I'll help you. So, I mean, if you bought this stuff new, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about $7,000. Yep. You know, if you had to buy the stuff, it's about $7,000 worth of stuff. I happen to have it all. You know, like the old iPads. When you upgrade iPad, I mean, I've had iPads since they came out. I think the very first iPad I sold and got like 80% of what I paid for it. So I sold it online. iPads are relatively new to the marketplace, I should say. So all these iPads are 3, 4, 5 years old. But they work as displays. You know, I mean, they do the job. Here we go. Oop, gonna swap cameras. I think I click this. Swap cameras. There we go. Because I like this stuff on the left side. This is a split screen. You can see Jimmy over here on the right, because I'm generally on the right. Finally, my doctor got the Freestyle Libre. What the heck is this? Oh yeah, I don't want to see that. There we go. Sorry. Anyway, August 26th. It's Monday morning. I produce these displays at, as you can see, it's 6:53 a.m. Miami time. This comes right off my iPhone. I just did a print screen on my iPhone, came up with this, and then I cropped it to get that, and then I cropped it further. So this is the opening logo, so to speak, that I use at the very beginning of the broadcast when you're hearing Epidemic. Instrumental, royalty free. So I'm allowed to rebroadcast it without permissions. But I always give them credit because you hear when you're streaming, if you don't have like 2 or 3 people talking, and then that one person talks and then I talk, and, it's just me, myself, and I talking to myself or you all or the internet for posterity. When I'm dead, everyone will be very interested to think of what I said. When I'm alive, I've got 1,000 friends on Facebook, so they can tune in if they feel like it. So it's in the Facebook at FAU4U. YouTube Live at FAU4U. We're broadcasting on 2 networks today. I will add the 3rd one tomorrow, since I found out what YouTube Live doesn't like. Yeah, what are you going to say? All right, let's move on. So what I do, here's interesting. The United States Constitution. Something. I carry one in my back pocket. It looks just like that. It's about this big. Yeah. 35 pages. An 8-point font type in this little booklet. It has the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, which is essentially amendments 1 through 10, and then amendments 11 through 27. Remember the 25th Amendment. It's all in this little booklet. I bought like 10 of those, I think. I'm going to go out to dinner with Bill Morris in 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm going to have those in my pocket. I'm going to give him 1 or 2. If somebody wants their very own, I'll give the United States Constitution to both of them. And when Daniel comes over, I'll give him 1. When Brennan comes over, I'll give him 1. Now this is the same thing. I found all these on Amazon. What do you see right here? Constitution of the United States of America, Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, Articles of Confederation, and amendments. Bill of Rights is amendments 1 through 10. They've, through history, amendments 1 through 10 are embodied in something that we call the Bill of Rights. The right of speech, the right of privacy. I'm not going to go through, history. Anyway, so this is like a desktop. I'm going to keep this on my coffee table in the living room. A copy. It's something about a 1/2 inch thick. A little nicer version. Instead of the pocket one, which is smaller than this one. This is actually the one I have in my pocket. It looks just like this. The cover looks like that. I also got a copy. You hear this referred to by constitutional attorneys. The Federalist, a collection of essays written by, some of the signers of the United States Constitution. Not all the signers, but some of them, were more verbose than others, either in debate or in writing. Well, the papers, the letters, they're kind of like letters without them being addressed to a certain party. It was like a memo to everybody back then. Yeah, it was 250 years ago. It was 1787, September 17th. Federalists. A new constitution, written in favor of the new constitution, as agreed upon by the Federal Convention of September 17th, 1787. There's a lot of history and a lot of, when you're in elementary school and high school, they called it social studies, and they go over some history, the formation of states, and, we are a federal republic of states. What does that mean? And I'm not equipped to teach social studies. It was not my favorite topic when I was a little whippersnapper. But, you have to take social studies if you want to graduate from third grade to fourth grade, and fourth grade to fifth grade, and so on. I was not a very good student, not because, I was lacking in capability. I just, kind of didn't like it. To me, it was kind of boring. English was boring. I became more and more interested in English as time went on. But, generally, English is not something that excited me too much. But, you have to graduate from fifth grade, and you diagram sentences and all that. That's pretty good stuff. And, you read Hamilton, what do you call it? Hamlet. You read all these different things, so you learn how to read. Anyway, so, if you have 9 lives, I think I'd like to come back and be a constitutional attorney. Go to college, take the SAT test, LSAT, LSAT. Lawyer's Scholastic Aptitude Test, the legal Scholastic Aptitude Test. So it was a bias on reading comprehension and all that, with some math, and some science. It was the LSAT. I took it. I scored well on it. Like 1,400 or something like that. It scored similar to the way the SATs were scored. You have 1,600 as a perfect score, which no one gets. Maybe 1 out of a million or 10 million. Not many people get 100% on the SAT or the LSAT. But when you graduate college, you also take a test called the General Record Exam, the GRE, the General Record Exam. Yeah. And that's like an SAT for people that graduate college. So all seniors, at the end of their senior year, you take a battery of these tests so they can evaluate how you did over these 4 years, 5 years, or whatever. 63 to 68. I was like a 5.5-year student because I switched my educational direction to pre-medicine from organic and physical chemistry. So I was an organic and physical chemistry person, that decided, oh, let's be pre-med. So, after my first semester sophomore year, oh yeah, let's be pre-med. So, you talk to the guidance counselor, whoever that was, and says, oh, you really want to do that? I said, yeah, really. So I had to take a bunch of biology classes, which when I graduated, I had a double major, physical chemistry and biology with a minor in math. How about that? Oh boy. The only thing I really liked taking was chemistry, although I took a bunch of physics courses, which is helpful, if you're going to be a well-rounded scientist, science-educated person. Some people graduate in English literature. That would be total sleepy time for me. I couldn't do that. Or, in Western civilization, or, these crazy things that I couldn't even imagine majoring in that. But, people do it. Not me. Nope. So, anyway, going back to the Constitution quickly, I told Marilyn I was interested in sending out constitutions to everybody in our, clan. Brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, children. Got a couple of 4 grandchildren. I guess we should send them out to those too. Yeah. And I have a particular one. Let's see if I can show you here. Let's type books. BOOKS. There we go. Books. So these are the books. What to read for me. Which ones? Library. This is everything. Where's my books? Home. Let's go home. Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I'm trying to figure out how to do this online, which is not the best way to figure out how to use something that you should know how to use. Okay. U.S. C.O.S. Excuse me. S.T.I.D. Not U.C. Constitution. I'm a little sloppy here. U.S. Constitution. Doesn't have to be the Declaration of, all that. All right, so these are. So you can get these things, in paperback, or you can get them right here at the, on iBooks. Trying to look for a friendly cover. Founding Fathers Medicine. Yeah. This is the one that I actually got in paperback. But see, you can get it. All right. You're watching me Oh,
Harris and former President Trump are picking up the pace on the campaign trail with 71 days to go until Election Day. The Wall Street Journal reporting Trump is stepping up his campaigning to counter Harris's post-DNC boost. His team says the former president will hold several events each week. Trump visited Arlington National Cemetery this morning to honor the 13 American service members who died in the Afghan attack. He will be in Michigan later today. VP Harris will be starting a bus tour in southern Georgia this
so I did that right. Read. Okay. There we go. So you can see the read the book right here online. You can change the format. You have some settings features here, I believe. Full screen. Slide over. There we go. Whoops. No, I didn't mean I didn't mean that. No, I don't want to do that either. Anyway, so the way it's set up right now, maybe because it's on screen with you. Declaration of Independence. So you can keep sliding up right here. Section 3, Senate. There we go. So here's the United States Constitution. The preamble. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. You've heard this before, right? Establish justice. Ensure domestic tranquility. Provide for the common defense. Promote the general welfare. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We now are what then was referred to as posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. There you go. Article 1. The legislative branch. Section 1. Congress. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which will consist of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And you see that? I mean, this is right. This is our United States Constitution that was handwritten because they didn't have, laser printers back then. Any kind of printers back then. Yeah. So I have some electric. So we'll get out of my books. There we go. And just go to the. This is the cover. I think I bought like 10 of these. They cost like $5 or $6 a piece. And I'm going to give them out to all our family members that, that either visit us or we visit them. I think the relatives, grandchildren, cousins, uncles, sisters, brothers, older children that, don't live here. I mean, one of them lives in Maryland and Lee lives in Virginia. Daughter Robin lives in Maryland. Annapolis. Nice house. Right on the water. 50-year-old daughter. No mortgage. House is worth a couple $1,000,000. So when we get old and decrepit, maybe she'll figure out how to take care of us. Put us somewhere in that big house. Put us in the basement. Give me the internet and a couple of, 1,000 watts of power, and I'll broadcast from her basement. Right now, we're in Boca Raton, Florida. Been in this building for 12 years. We've been in Boca Raton since 1990. May of 1990, I believe, when I came back. Got a job at Boca Bank. Yeah. I was in our house in Tampa, Florida, and got my real estate broker's license there, and was, planning on, doing things. And I submitted my resume to the United States government. For a job in the RTC Resolution Trust. It goes in the 80s, some banks got in real trouble. So they needed experienced bankers, experienced people, in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't know if they really had an age thingy. Probably not allowed to. You're hiring people from the public. And, every Sunday or every other Sunday, we used to go out on Rocky Point Island and have brunch at the Hyatt Regency. They had a place out on the point. Magnificent octagonal-shaped building, I think. And they had a marvelous brunch. So you could sit there from 11 until 2 or 3, and enjoy, a buffet kind of a thing. You go up and get whatever you want, and you go sit down, you get what you want, and you come sit down. You want to, oh, darling, I think I'll have a croissant. So you go get your croissant, and then you come sit down. Garçon, may I have some hot tea? So they bring you some hot tea. Garçon, may I have a screwdriver, heavy on the screw? Anyway, we go there. So I applied to, I forget exactly who I applied to, but the information got in the hands of the director of the FDIC for, headquartered in, I believe, Dallas, Texas. And the person that was in charge of, hundreds or thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, 100, 800, 900, maybe 1,000. It was a lady. I forget her name. But anyway, that director for that region, which is like region 3 or 4 or something like that. New York was region 1. I think they had 5 regional headquarters for the Resolution Trust Corporation that had to deal with all these assets that used to be housed in banks that became defunct. So all their assets were divided up by geography. And anyway, this lady, I'm trying to think of her name. Anyway, the HR department of the Dallas branch of the FDIC, actually it was, is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And she wanted, so I interviewed there. They flew me, they bought me a ticket, I picked up the ticket in the Tampa airport. You fly there and then fly out. I was there for 4 or 5 hours. I flew in, got a cab. In the 80s, they didn't have, the ride sharing thing that we have today, like Uber. They didn't have Uber back then. You just got a cab. So I got a cab from the Dallas airport and went to the FDIC headquarters, wherever that was, in Dallas, Texas. So I interviewed with one person for 45 minutes or so. They went over my resume. They asked me questions. I answered the questions, and then they interviewed with another person. And then I interviewed with the head person. Apparently they liked what it was. The unique thing in my background was not only was I a senior officer in the real estate arena that made good loans. I knew the difference between a good loan and a bad loan, so to speak. It's a complicated process when you do real estate loans, not home loans. Although they had a big portfolio of residential loans. But, commercial real estate deals that went upside down for some reason, for a variety of reasons. And anyway, so what they liked about my resume is that I spent 4 or 5 years as a developer, as a senior officer of a developing enterprise. We built office buildings and shopping centers. So, and they had a lot of shopping centers in their portfolio. They said, hey, let's get this guy because he knows what it's like to be a developer and he knows what it's like to be a lender. What a great combination for someone who's going to help us. So this head person told me that we want to put you on, you're going to come in for 90 days or so, just so you get by the 90-day, there's a 90-day thing, where if I don't like them and they don't like me, they can adios me. And that's the end of that. The government, they like renew you, they give you annual renewals. But she said, you will be a career FDIC person after your first year. So, assuming the positive, we're going to get by the 90-day business. And then you're good up until the first year. And then after the first year, or sometime during that first year, we're going to put you on the Senior Credit Committee, which is the most senior committee that there is in the FDIC. Because of your extremely strong background, you're going to be the only civilian that has ever been placed on the Senior Credit Committee. I said, oh, how nice. So every asset that gets moved through the FDIC, whatever the form of the disposition is, the Senior Credit Committee has to sign off on it. So you review these things. You meet, once a week or whatever the frequency is. You might have an ad hoc meeting where it's not even scheduled because you have to dispose of an asset right away. And you guys have to sign off on everything. In other words, nothing gets disposed of, so to speak, which usually means sold. Nothing gets sold out of the FDIC portfolio. So everything over $1 million goes through the Senior Credit Committee. And it could, go from $1 million up to $100 million, it could be a mall, could be whatever. If the FDIC got it because of a, degraded portfolio that, from a failed bank, they made all kinds of loans and, some of them turned bad, and that's what sank the bank. So you like your resume, you're going to go on the senior credit committee. That's a promise. But you got to get by the 90 days. So everyone's got to like you in the first 90 days. Everyone's going to like you. You're good. And, you're not a wise guy. And you're going to fit in perfectly. I don't have any, she's saying I don't have any concerns with that. But, just officially, you got to get past the first 90 days because that's a requirement, a rule, or procedure we have when the government hires somebody, a civilian, so to speak. I mean, everyone was a civilian at one point, but after you have a few years under your belt, see, then you're an FDIC person. You're not a civilian anymore. You have, medals of honor, so to speak. So she said, so what do you think? And I said, I'm extremely interested in this. So I assume you're going to make me a formal offer of some kind, in writing, I assume, right? Okay. Seems like I have two sources of music going at once here. Let's see if we can figure out why that's happening. I apparently touched the wrong button. Let's get rid of this. No, that's not doing it. Crap. Epidemic. This is probably it right here. No, that's not. All right. Well, we have a little different music coming through now. Wow. Now it's coming out of my my MacBook here. Oh, no. I'm sorry to have this interruption. All right, we got some kind of cacophony going here. Some different kind of music is coming through. We'll figure it out. But not now. So we won't be listening to Epidemic. We'll be listening to this, what I call cacophony of sound. But, in the streaming business, you have to... Look at that. Oh well. Let's not worry about it. Breaking news. Police in Iceland have called off the search for a collapsed cave. Let's turn this down. Everything else seems to be visually acceptable. We just have this sound coming out of my MacBook. I can't even turn it off. So I don't know where it's coming from. That's very interesting, huh? Or not so interesting. What's this? Could this be part of it? No. It's not coming out of my iPhone. How about this one? Is it coming out through here? It's, you little devil. Sorry about that, folks. Oh, God. So now we have no background music. Let's get Epidemic back. I was turning everything off. It was coming out of the mic. There we go. Come on. We should be hearing this. We're not. Oh. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. There's it. Now we're back to normal. Well, at 45 minutes in our transmission, we ended up with something coming out of my MacBook here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 iPads that are serving different kinds of capacities. The one that's here let's get back to, there we go. See, that's under here. This is my research tool. So while I'm talking, I can do some research on this one. Like, let's see what's out for delivery. Oh, right, here it goes. Oh, here it is. Remember I told you? I showed you a picture of this. There it is. You can kind of see it. It's the same one I showed you on this right here. It's this one right here. Yeah. This is out for delivery. I tell you, Amazon really, there you go. This is out for delivery. You can't see this. It's like sideways. But see, I can research stuff on this one. This is a current MacBook Pro. Gigabyte of memory. This right here is my MacBook, MacBook Pro, but they call it the MacBook Air. It's very similar to the MacBook Pro. It's a MacBook, so it's a computer. It's not an iPad. Everything else I got here is iPads. This is the only computer I got. And I have a backup sitting underneath the living room table in case I have to take a MacBook out when I'm visiting with Bill Morris or a developer or a banker or something. I need to bring a computer with me. I usually just bring this iPad. Sometimes you got to have your computer because they have computer software that I have to use that's not compatible with an iPad, which is essentially a big iPhone, so to speak. Apple would be very mad at me saying that. But the software, most of the software that works on an iPhone works on an iPad, and vice versa. There's a few, let's say 10% of the apps that don't work on each other because of the fact that there's, the real estate is oriented towards landscape. Like this iPad is always landscape, and this is a new iPad, and the camera sensor is in the middle of the landscape mode, the landscape orientation of this iPad, whereas before the cameras were always up in the top middle, up here, just like the iPhone. But I think everyone was complaining, including me, that I'm putting my iPad in this keyboard cover that you sell for $300, and I want the camera there. I don't want to, I don't want to be on a Zoom call and the camera's over on the side. It needs to be up in the top middle, just like with your computers. Anyway, all right. Amazon is telling me that my replacement, these are my replacement silicone card holders things are coming. They've been shipped. So I'll get them, I guess, tomorrow or so. Yep. I get the Meow Mix today. I get my spare batteries today. I ordered Bustelo. I'm running out of Bustelo coffee. I got one more of these 50,000 milliampere hour battery packs in case the power goes off. And I got 4 rolls of tape. Big rolls of tape. Looks like this. Clear, it's basically Scotch tape, but big. You can see it's a real, thick roll. I use this stuff all the time. Sealing up boxes when you ship things, So I have one of those there, and I have another one in the kitchen. So I don't have to be running all over the place if I want it. Yep. So anyway, Amazon's sending me messages all the time. They just shipped this, they just shipped that. I didn't buy a lot of stuff. I just went through things that I needed. And I either get it Instacart or I buy it from Amazon. For all our food items. Instacart is very popular with us, with a lot of people, for, doing your shopping without having to go to the store. And, we had all this virus and all these scares. So, let's just stay the hell out of the stores and not worry about getting sick. Let's take a look. Anyway, so we're going to have an emphasis in the next couple of weeks, since this is a political season, with the presidential elections and talking about, freedoms and certain amendments. So I want everybody to have a copy of the Constitution in the pocket form, so the ladies, girls can put them in their purses, and the boys, if they choose, can put them in their briefcase or in their back pocket. I don't carry a briefcase with me all over the place, so I put it in my back pocket. My back pocket is big enough that can hold this pocket version of the United States Constitution. They didn't leave any words out. It's just, small form factor, slightly smaller print font, but everything's there with no interpretations. It's as written. There's former President Trump sitting at his breakfast table in the clubhouse, because you can see there's a pen, there's a sand trap, palm trees. Yeah. He's sitting there autographing hats. Make America Great Again hats. Kind of amazing, isn't it? Just happened to glance at that on the internet. There's a little print screen, and there it is. It's like magic. The U.S. sending another $125 million in new military aid to Ukraine. This Ukraine war is just terrible. Putin and the Russians should not have invaded Ukraine. Trump says if he was president, that would have never happened, because we would have stared down Putin and said, you walk across that border into Ukraine, there's hell to pay from us. We'll send missiles from here. We don't have to be there. And then they just deploy, the bombs. We'll send the bombs from our silos here. It's not a war on Russia. It's a war on you. And you directing your troops to invade the sovereign country of Ukraine. That's property. There's a boundary. Everyone agreed to these boundaries after the Second World War. But with Biden, Putin figured, you know what, he's not going to do anything. He'll moan and groan and he's not going to do anything. And I'll be able to pick up, part of this terrain and incorporate it into, the Soviet Union, so to speak, Russia, and take back, this property that was originally part of Russia. If you look at the old maps, I want it back. Poland, Hungary, that whole part of Europe could, in theory, get absorbed back into Russia if no one did anything about it. Anyway, when Trump gets elected, he says he's going to stop that. The 500,000 young men and women that died for what? Terrible. Anyway, so we just sent over another $125 million worth of stuff, whatever that is. That seems like a small piece. We sent over I think $200 billion worth of stuff to Zelensky, who's a president that used to be a stand-up comedian. How about that for a career path? Stand-up comedian becomes president of Ukraine. But, he's doing it. If you want to read Kamala Harris's full speech from the Democratic National Convention, you can just hit this link and you can get right there. Look how happy she is. There she is from the back. There's from the camera in the front. In the United Center. Let's see, we can get rid of this. We can do a reverse pinch. You see right there, United Center. You can see it in writing. That's the name of that center in downtown Chicago. You got a big floor space, people sitting all over the floor, and then you got the second level and the third level. And apparently on the third level, you've got a lot of, there's a TV station that's there. It's probably the broadcast center for the convention. You see all the lights are on, lighting up there. Talking heads. There's another bunch of people up there in that booth. These are like private booths all the way around the ring top there. That's it. The first families are probably up in these private quarters for security purposes. I financed Joe Robbie Stadium, and there's a lot of little tunnels and walkways and safety areas where the team, the coaches, kings and queens and presidents and so forth, their aides, high-level media types can move around within or under the within or under. You can drive under the stadium, at least Joe Robbie Stadium. So you can drive under, get picked up from a protected, concrete encased ingress, get right in your car, and drive right out of there into the highway or the local street systems. And you never have to come in contact with the public. You know, they'd have to drive backwards in the highways to get to it underneath the stadium. But, you know, it's all secure and gated and all this kind of stuff. So when I see big arenas like this, I think of, that was one of my first big jobs, was the financing of Joe Robbie Stadium, which we've been in often. I'm adjunct faculty at FAU, but I also take photos for the FAU football team dating back to the year 2000. And FAU, I think for 3 seasons, which is 3 years, but not the whole year, just the football season portion of the year, which is 5 months, plus or minus. And they paid the stadium owners, I think $100,000 a week for every week that they played. So if they had 5 home games, since FAU at that point, in the year 2000, 2001, and so forth, they used Joe Robbie Stadium, and they paid $100,000 a game. So they would have a stadium to play in. So for the first 3 years of the FAU football team, they played in Joe Robbie Stadium. And the number of fans that showed up was like 8 or 10,000. So when you have a 27,000 seats arena and you're only using 8,000 seats, it doesn't look very crowded. It wasn't very crowded in the early days of FAU football. But now, now when they have a home game, it's 15 to 20,000 show up, because FAU has its own stadium now. I didn't finance that. But that was like an 800 million, it's only it could only seat 32,000 if it was all built out. The end zones are not built out. All the way around, it's built out, except for like the end zones. So it seats like 20,000 around, and it can go to 32 if they build out the seating that would be in the end zones, making it, a full circumference stadium with no open end zones, so to speak. Yeah. I'm getting in touch with Katrina McCormick, reminding her that Marilyn, myself, and my son Daniel are interested in taking shots for the pre-game, after game, halftime, and some football shots. Mostly, lifestyle imaging kind of a thing. Not really a sports. But we provide the photos to FAU at no cost. And we put them on our website. They say you're not allowed to sell the pictures. I said, that's fine. Trump's businesses are raking in millions of dollars from Republican political campaigns, including his own political campaign. I assume that's what that's meant by that. So, but Trump is providing stuff, providing things, and that's why he's getting paid millions of dollars. For example, if they have an event at Mar-a-Lago, a Republican event, they got to pay. They got to pay what the fees are to rent out, all of Mar-a-Lago's capacity for eventing and microphoning and lunches, lunching or dinnering or whatever. So if you're going to serve dinners to 8,000 political types, you're going to have to pay for 8,000 dinners. Yeah, it's $90 a dinner, whatever they bill. So, and he has golf courses all over the country, all over the globe, actually. All golf courses aren't his, but he's got a bunch of them. I think 11. Here's a little signal. You see that? A little display package that shows up on your iPhone if you want it. It's a widget. And it shows that my iPhone is, 75%, 73% charged. My Apple Watch, when this print screen was created, it shows that the Apple Watch, is about 75% charged. The iPhone a little bit less. The headphones would be over here, but they're plugged in, so they didn't show up on there. Because I'm wearing headphones right here. They're 100% charged, which would work on, what do you call it, Bluetooth. But, if I use the Bluetooth wireless connection in the iPad Pro here, excuse me, I got cat hairs on there. There's a little delay. Maybe it's only 15 milliseconds. But when you're speaking and you're hearing it in your headphones and there's a little delay, it makes you kind of wacky because you're kind of hearing yourself twice because of the delay. So I hardwire the headphones instead of using the Bluetooth. Now, if you're just listening to music or, a channel, the fact that there's a little bit of a delay is not an issue. It's not a big delay, a little tiny delay. But it sounds like a little tiny bit of an echo, which makes you crazy if you're broadcasting and talking live like we are. Okay. This is an interesting Donov, this guy here. How young he is. He's a Russian-born person living in France. They just arrested him. Jonathan Turley was talking about it this morning. And Telegram, that's an app that's the most downloaded app in the whole world. That's quite a territory. So this fellow was arrested today or yesterday. They're 6 or 7 hours ahead of us, right? So if it's noon here, it's 7 p.m. there, or 6 p.m. I think it's a 7-hour difference in time zone with France, as opposed to the time zone of, London. We got a clock, a world clock that'll show you that, but that's not relevant to this story. The story is that this guy that created Telegram, I'll tell you what that is in a minute. It's like a text messaging app. So he appears in court this week. After a Paris airport arrest. So he was released on some kind of a bond, pursuant to the government of France. And they're pretty strict in their the way they deal with people that supposedly broke laws. So we have to figure out what law he broke, which he's challenging. So he's out on bail apparently, and he's going to appear in court this week. Jonathan Turley was talking about it this morning. See, he's a professor at George Washington University Law School. He is a professor of law at George Washington University. Another way of saying that. There's another shot of Jonathan Turley, and they keep putting up different angles of this guy talking with, a microphone, little microphone that comes around the ear. And there's Telegram. If you can go to the App Store, or you can go to the internet, just pull your, let's do it. Let's just shrink this down. Oh yeah, this is photos. So I just pull this down, type Telegram, Telegram. Let's, oh crap. Gotta do that again. Telegra. Come on, technical people. There we go. Telegram, the world's fastest messaging app. It is free and secure. It's very fast. You can see the meter going. It's free. But the free version, I think you get some advertisements popping up somehow. It's powerful, has no limits on the size of your text message or media content. It's secure. Now, this is what makes foreign governments, including our own, crazy, because it's encrypted and law enforcement can't crack it. And all your messages for multiple devices are cloud-based. It's in the clouds. Anyway, so that's Telegram. They're in the news. I have Telegram. And I can open it right here. It's in this. There's Telegram. I have a message. I don't know if you can, probably can't really see this. I sent a message to Lyle Johnson. What does this say? Telegram was used by the 11-inch iPad Pro. Do you know anything about this? I do. I know everything about this. And they basically tell you don't have to do anything. We're just telling you it happened on Sunday. And there's 4 other. Diane Fish has Telegram. It's one of Maryland's. It's a person that she goes to the Friday lunchtime Rotary meeting. Diane Fish does, I believe. I've met her. Jack Jones, grandson, last seen in this situation 30 minutes ago. It tells you right here. These are from my contacts. So of all my contacts, there are only 4 people that are using, I'll hide that, Telegram. But it is a very safe and secure text messaging thing. So, text messaging app. So I recommended it to a company that I financed. Well, Johnson is the principal. And I said, well, Telegram is free. I told them all the benefits. It's encrypted, it's secure. And, if you want to have a kind of a separate messaging kind of arena for all your employees, well, your laboratory technicians, yourself, your chief financial officer, all these people, each little messaging thing is secure. Everyone can't read your message. It's just you and the person that sent you the message, and vice versa. But this way, when employees talk to each other, it's encrypted. You're picking up samples, whatever you're doing. It's safe. And it's encrypted in case they lose their phones. They pick up the phones. Company secrets aren't going to be exposed because the system is completely encrypted. Outside from the encryption that already is resident, with the Apple, with the iOS system, with the operating system of the iPhone or the iPad. But this Telegram app is a totally different app with its own little icon thing. You just saw me launch it, to deal with messaging on the iPhone or the iPad, for that matter, any iOS device. I'm not sure, about other kinds of devices, but I know for the iOS system, Telegram is available. I'm sure it's, they have icons and so forth for other types of systems, that's like for the Samsung products and so forth. Anyway, so that's a big deal going on this week in France. There is the Apple iOS 18. So what is the warning? I mean, these writers, I guess, have nothing better to do. They're trying to figure out what to write about. An expert has warned about the change coming to iPhones in September. Well, let me tell you, I read this whole article, which was essentially a complete waste of my time. And they've changed the terminology of Apple ID. You see me reverse pinching here. Your Apple ID is now going to be called your Apple account. That's the big deal. Jeez. I mean, that was the dumbest article I've ever read. I haven't... that's the image credit who had someone hold up an iPhone with iOS 18 displayed on it with an Apple logo like in their store or in their headquarters building. And that image credit goes to Getty. Getty has some images that I captured. FAU football. Next, invitations should be going out to the media or VIPs and VIPs to attend the Apple headquarters event of the year where they show and tell all about the new iPhone 16 coming out and what magnificent changes have been made. I understand with the iOS, the new iOS devices, that the new phones, like you've got the standard size phone, and then this is the big phone, which is not that big. I wouldn't want it any smaller, but they do have a slightly smaller version of it. It's about a half-inch, shorter, the way I have it laid out in the landscape orientation here. So, it's like a half-inch shorter and an eighth inch less wide. So it's a little more compact than your pocket. Well, last year, or this year, with their tetraprism zoom lens that I have in my phone, it wasn't available for the smaller iPhone 15 Pro. I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is the screen is a half inch more wide, a half inch wider, and it's more better. Since I'm misspeaking. Oh boy. So this week the invitations go out. I think September. I have a sense that September 10th will be, at 10 a.m. California time, 10 a.m., which is 1 p.m. Eastern, since there's a 3-hour time difference with Pacific time and Eastern time, Eastern seaboard of the United States, extending right up through Maine and going all the way down to the tip of Texas, tip of Florida, excuse me. That's Eastern. And then you have Central Time Zone, Mountain Time, and then Pacific Time. So that's 3 hours earlier in the day. So when it's 10 a.m. Pacific, it's 1 p.m. 10, 11, 12, 1. That's it. So that's going to happen. It's either going to happen on the the 3rd or the 10th. All the talking heads seem to think the 10th is the day. Now, maybe Apple, which means the invitations have to go out right away. As soon as the invitations go out, then the when of the meeting is essentially made public, because everybody that got that notification is going to indicate that they're integrating from somewhere, and or people like me that are interested in the new technology, not necessarily new to Apple, but I'm not new to Apple. I've been around for a while. I love their products, by the way. It's just, I can't say enough good things about Apple products, quite frankly. They're highly refined, precision, everything. Everything is precision. Yeah. Yep. Ex-General Chief Mark Milley. Trump is not real happy. No, he's ex-general. He's already retired, apparently. Mark Milley and former Google executive Eric Schmidt. The U.S. is unprepared for AI. So they mentioned concerns, you know, in this machine learning business. You know, we have the ability to pull the plug. So AI, you know, there are safeguards that can be written in any operating system. Now, if you're bad guys and you want to access it illegal, here this 87-year-old guy says, I have proof of this flying saucer that crashed into my backyard in my ranch. Man from Los Angeles claims to have witnessed a UFO crash many years ago, and he reportedly has proof of it. Joseph Padilla, who was 9 years old at the time. That's a long time ago. When he was 9, my God, they didn't have a lot of stuff we have now. When it was like, you know, the media is so NBC. They make up stories. Vance didn't dodge anything. He just, you know, he stays on point. He's campaigning. And he's not necessarily going to answer every nuance of every question thrown at him. He may answer it the way he wants to answer it. And maybe a certain member of the media didn't like the way he answered. It wasn't complete enough. It wasn't X or nothing Y. You know, who knows? That's what this article is about. It's nearly time for iOS 18. I've been using iOS 18 for 4 or 5 months now, I think it is. We're considered beta testers for Apple. I started iOS 18, let's say 2 months ago. They started, you know, so we have the beta version of iOS, and I think it's the 5th. I think they've had 5 beta improvements, fine-tuning the iOS operating system. And this, you know, this panel here, wish I can reverse pinch. You can see, you know, it has, you know, more capacity. It's faster. The graphics are more defined. So some of the lingo has changed, where they don't ask you for your Apple ID. They ask for your account ID, because you have an Apple account now. You don't have an Apple ID. So that'll be curious on how they package that. Anyway, here's the guy that says it crashed. So he ran over after the thing crashed. And there are a couple of aliens that came out of it and ran off. Some were injured. There was 3 or 4 of them. So he doesn't know too much about that. But he ran over to the flying saucer and grabbed a couple of pieces out of it. I got evidence. And, you know, the government cleaned it all up, carried away the shell, you know, with whatever they could rake up, and restoration. I have that. They put it in, you know, a warehouse in Area 51 probably, or something like that. He said, well, I know what happened. I saw it and I have evidence. So he has, you know, some trinkets. that he collected from this crashed flying saucer. That's not a picture he took, because this happened when he was 9, if I read the article right. And he's now 87, so you can do the math on how long ago that was. Judge Cannon tossing out Trump's case raises risk for acting prosecutors. In other words, prosecutors that were not formally elected into office, but they were put in by fiat. Someone says, hey, you got a good law degree, you've been working in my office, you can be a special prosecutor. I'm positioning you as a special prosecutor. And that's what the special prosecutor that you're looking at right now on the left part of this picture. Okay, this is the judge, and this is the special prosecutor that's chasing down Trump for stuff that he probably didn't do. Yeah. Okeechobee, unrelated. Okeechobee County, has, some responsibilities on the plan for so the question is about toxic algae, and there's going to be a little less of it because they're going to be cleaning up this toxic algae, so there's not so much algae, and every 20 feet or so they're going to be embedding a pole. We're talking sea level now of this. So there are going to be some sources, outlets of power, that are coupled with, water and so forth. So that if those resources were brought up into a cabin of some sort, in the Okeechobee area, you would not be subjected to toxic algae. That's what's going on here. And you can see that algae collecting up near that gate where water comes from top screen to bottom screen. And this gate here controls the flow of water that's going from Lake Okeechobee out to the beginning of this waterway down. It goes down here and connects up with the interstate system that's at around Lake Okeechobee. So that's an aerial view of that situation. Tampa Bay jails are full. So they're arresting people and putting them in jail and keeping them there until they meet their bond requirement or they're adjudicated. And then, of course, if they were found guilty, then they would be transferred into a secure prison somewhere else in Florida. Otherwise, they stay in the holding cells close by to the populations. So if they want anything, need anything, or new evidence is going to come, or who is with regard to testing of an individual. They would, like reside in our place or whatever. There's several people that would house, students that are held over because they have legal problems. That's all right. Germany. In Germany, protesters in Berlin rally against anti-Semitism and demand hostage release. That's what that article's about. Lebanon's Hezbollah is launching large-scale attack on Israel. So they've begun their large attack. And the question is, how much is this shield, this missile system shield that they engineered and we manufactured a bunch of those Iron Dome missiles. Trump says he wants an Iron Dome for the United States, where they have launch positions in, South Florida, up around, then again in Tampa, maybe the Tampa and maybe the Jacksonville spot. That triangle would cover the state of Florida very well. All right. China has apparently, some engineers in China have developed the world's first intelligent robotic whale shark. This is a mechanical shark. And AI will be controlling, the wiggle of that shark through the waters. So it's kind of like a big shark-looking submarine, perhaps. They don't show people in there, but you wonder, why they developed such a thing, and what's inside that thing. Is there a lot of technology involved in there? It looks as if it's a replacement for, what do you call it? The wind machines. The green wind. Yeah. This would keep it below sea level. Here's a sea lion chasing up beachgoers. Get off my beach. Damn it. I just got home from vacation and I come out here and take a rest. I don't want you guys reefing anything. You get out of there. Yeah. D.L. Hughley's Democratic National Committee joke. Kamala Harris has been black longer than Trump has been a Republican. The hell does that mean? Trump isn't so much of a Republican. He was a Democrat all his life. He has conservative ideas about how certain things should be. But he's a law and order guy. He's very democratic as opposed to Democrat Party. Democratic. However, pertaining to democracy, the Democrats are not that. They like to say they are, but they're not. Because almost everything they do, almost everything they did with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not appropriate. So they're swinging. Yeah, that Michigan Governor Whitmer, she's slapping across. Just slap you. Russian launches deadly overnight aerial attack on cities and power grids across Ukraine. Yep. They're shooting each other. And Trump says he's going to get in the middle and stop it. And get Russia back out of there. And basically get everybody to respect the borders. And that hopefully will stop that. And Trump says that war would have never been prosecuted if he was president. He says, as soon as I get in office, I'm going to stop it. Well, we'll figure out what that means. It is iOS 18 coming out. You can bring up your emails in a form of categorization, columns of email. You got major news, minor news, and everything in between. And the iOS label is it's hard to tell what anyway, so that's all going to be discussed in a certain amount of detail at this September 10th. It's probably going to be September 10th, I think that's a Thursday. It's usually Tuesdays or Thursdays when they have these things. Let's see if we have a calendar handy. Oh, the other thing we want to look up is Real Clear Politics. Let's do this one. Yeah. And pull this down so we get the updates. See that swirling thing in the middle? So now Kamala is, in her campaign, arguing about what the rules are going to be for a debate. Polls. Let's hit the polls. Do we have any Monday polling? Not really. Sunday they had some polling, but nothing really today. Michigan, 48-46. Yeah, that's like a toss-up. Harris +1. I mean, the numbers came in the way they come in. Harris and Trump. It's all, all these polls are 3.5%, 4% margin of error. So if they gave up all their Trump, all their Trump votes came in somewhere, the votes don't split, they're there. The question is, Kennedy's got 5%. If he's out of the race, how does that split up between Harris and Trump? That's the question that no one is answering yet. Since there wasn't any apparent big explosion, Harris is now leading in the polls. She's leading about the same way she has been leading. Harris 45, Trump 47. If it's a 2-point margin, that's the question. General Electric, the general election. Harris is up by 4, but Kennedy's got 5. So, 43, 47. Generally, you would think after the DNC, that would be Harris up by 7 or 8, but it's only 4. So that's probably a good sign that there's not a big bump out of that convention. Everyone was predicting a big bump. Well, it didn't bump very big. Trump is up by 3 in Rasmussen. He said he's the only people that I saw. You can buy something at these sites. Like, let's hit Rasmussen so you can just touch it. iPads are magical. 2024 election, Trump 49, Harris 46. So 49, that's right at the margin of error. So they explain what that means. We'll keep you up to date. Okay? As things develop. You have an account? Of course I have an account. So, not subscribe. Let's hit the back button. I don't know if I figured out how to do that right now. I'll figure it out. General Electric. Harris up by 2. Harris up by 4. Harris up by 3. Trump up by 2. Trump up by 2. Trump up by 5. So the big key question is, with Kennedy, 5% of the people that responded to this polling said, I'm for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So the polling means they get estimations. One person might represent, half a small town, and the other person is the other half of the small town. So, you have a myriad of all these towns with all their polling results. Last cycle, he averaged it all out. Biden was up by like 7 or 8. This year, we don't have Kamala up 7 or 8 with an average of all these polls. Harris is up 3, 4. Trump 2. Harris 1, 1. Trump 5. Cruz 2. So interesting take on that. So a couple more days in the business cycle, we'll figure out what's going to happen with the polling results. Right now, we're kind of guessing. So that famous crash, MH370, they never found the plane. Imagine after all this time, which is, it's been a long time. And see, here's a piece of a plane. Now, one thing when they manufacture a plane, right underneath, where the structure of this wing is, which is ripped off the plane, there's, a label glued on the side of the aluminum structure that holds the shape of that wing. This is like a flap situation, I think. Anyway, they can make that to whoever the actual owner of the spacecraft is. So, it's bigger disposals with, So, it's not like the baffles on a dump truck. It's the airfoil of a wing. It's a piece of a wing or a piece of a flap. That MH370 plane. Of course, that's the call sign for the packaging and so forth. According to Vincent Lynn of the University of Tasmania, analysis of the debris indicates signs of a controlled ditching of the aircraft. In other words, they lined it up with the wind and so forth, into the wind, full flaps, wheels down, land it like a duck. It comes in and splashes down, and then the nose gradually comes down. And hopefully the plane doesn't destroy itself when there's some kind of controlled landing like that in the water. So they think it was a controlled ditching rather than this guy run. There were articles. He ran off with the plane. What was he going to do with? He ran off where? He should have been there already. But anyway, when they manufacture the plane, they're like little serial numbers on different parts, and they can trace it back to the aircraft if they find pieces. So, not that they're hunting for pieces of aircraft, stuff blows off when they're flying, and this happened to land in a tree in a guy's backyard. If I got the story right. So they traced the serial number, and it indeed is part of MH3 1370, 370, MH370. A new study argues that damage to MH370's wing, flaps, And all right. A former Twitter director who went viral for sleeping in the office was deeply concerned about employee burnout. Yeah. Everyone's pushing for more profits and all that kind of stuff. Insurance. This lady's insurance refused to pay for her abortion even when her life was at stake. You know, abortion, you know, when you're going to cancel another living being's ability, you know, you get past that first trimester, you're almost getting to the point where that little beast inside of you can survive outside of you. So, abortion should not be birth control measure. I remember that as a kid, hearing all about abortion stuff. And, you know, women have the ability to get abortions all over this country. More convenient in certain states than others. But almost all states, you can get yourself aborted before sometime in the first trimester. Well, you got 13 weeks. Now, you know you're pregnant almost immediately now with the, you know, you pee on a little strip and it either turns colors or it doesn't, or it comes up with a plus sign instead of a negative sign, you know, something to show that you've been fertilized. Apparently, when you've been fertilized, there are certain enzymes and amino acids and enzymes that end up being swept up by your liver and your kidneys, which then expel these telltale enzymes, which can be squirted, or you can dip your little strip or your little device, you know, and then you look in the thing and is there a positive or negative sign there? You have a little, you know, Marilyn and I did that with her firstborn. But that was on purpose, you know, absolutely on purpose. And she was overly delighted that she was pregnant. She was using an IUD device to prevent conception, which is not abortion. It makes your uterus unacceptable for the uniting of an egg and a sperm. It's as simple as that. So you never get, with an IUD, for example, or with a prophylactic, which, you know, prevents the sperm from mixing up in the uterine area. But an IUD, you know, you're birth controlled because you have that device in your uterus, which makes it unacceptable for an egg and a sperm to join and attach to the uterine wall. So you never become fertilized, essentially. But once you go back to your gynecologist and you remove the IUD from your inner parts of your uterus with, you know, with some kind of a little copper coated device that goes up to your cervix, I think is the way that works. Anyway, I remember, this will be a quick story because I've been talking slowly and rapidly for 2 hours now. It's 1:03 p.m. Oh my God, on Monday. She went to her gynecologist. They removed the IUD because we decided 6 years after we got married, in the 6th year, she said, okay, let's have a baby. So we were all set to have a baby. We were financially capable of having a baby without any economic upheavals. And so the doctor told, I think it was Dr. Jones, told Marilyn, you ain't going to get pregnant for about 6 months or so. So they pulled the plug. The vernacular for removing the IUD. It's not really a plug, but it's just being a wise guy. So she removed the IUD. Dr. Jones says, you're going to get pregnant in 5, 6, 7, 8 months, So after about 3 weeks, Marilyn has one of these old things. And apparently when you get, we knew all the telltale signs when you're pregnant. The woman's body changes in some very subtle ways. Her chest changes. I don't have a big sample. Fortunately, I don't have a big sampling of women that I've been associated with in that way. But the breasts change up a little bit. The circles around the nipple get darker, and the nipple itself gets a little thicker and a little firmer. I noticed that. And of course, she notices that because she looks at herself when she's washing or changing or drying up or whatever. She said, I think I'm down here. So she tells me about her changes. And I said, yeah, I notice your changes too. Why don't you get one of those little test thingies and pee on it according to the instructions, and let's see if it comes out positive or not positive. Sure as hell, it came out positive. She holds on to that little device. She calls Dr. Jones. I said, it's time for me to come in. I think I'm pregnant. He says, nah, you can't be pregnant already. She said, I think I am. I peed on the strip and it turned, can I come into the office and you can do your testing and see what's going on? Sure as hell, she's pregnant. So was the beginning stages of Brennan Wilson, who's now 36 years old. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I remember Brown says, come on, let's have time for babies. I said, okay. And sure as hell, she pulled the plug and we started having babies. We had 2 of them. We had one of them, and then 3 years later, we had another one. Brennan and Daniel. That's how they came to be. But abortion should not be birth control. That's a nasty way to kill some little being that's growing inside of you. And if you've ever seen, I was a pre-med student, and I saw some videos of what happens during an abortion procedure. It's disgusting. It's primitive. It's terrible. If you have an abortion in the 5th month, you're literally ripping legs and arms off when they're trying to kill this fetus. And all this abortion rights stuff, that's a bunch of crap. They want a national law. You don't need a national law. Roe v. Wade was declared not appropriate for having anything to do with abortions. There's not even, the word isn't even in Roe v. Wade. It's hard to imagine how they construed that precedent-setting case, that actually had nothing to do with abortions. Anyway, so the Supreme Court said, no, this has nothing to do with abortions. We're sending this whole topic back to the states. So each state and each state legislature. So if you live in Florida, the Florida state legislature is dealing with, the abortion rights situation and how, what trimester you could, so I think Florida's, in the 16-week or under category of states. So everybody in Florida, any woman in Florida that wants to have an abortion, you better decide, in the 12th week, what you want to do about that. Don't wait until, the kid's ready to be born. Virginia, you can right up to the date, of birth, you can abort it, which is nuts. That's called murder. God. And everything in between. Each state has their own abortion rules. That's all. And if you live in Alabama, it's going to be harder to get an abortion. You've got to get it earlier in the life cycle. And in Chicago, New York, and California, you can have abortions later in the life cycle. So if you live in Alabama and you want an abortion, so drive up to Ohio. They're a little more liberal on the abortion laws. So you take a 2-hour drive. What's going on? So all these people carrying around, signs, women's rights, everybody, there's no problem getting an abortion in the United States. Some states are more conservative than others. So if you happen to live in a state that's more conservative than how you want to treat abortion, then so take a 2-hour drive and go into a state that has abortion laws that are similar to you, or move. What's the big deal? I don't understand. I'm actually confused by this whole liberal politicization of the abortion rules. And people running around with signs and don't tell me how to do my body. No one's telling you how to do your body. Do whatever you want to do with your body. But if you want an abortion late in term, you better get out of Alabama or drive somewhere else and get your abortion, and you go back home afterwards. Certain states are more liberal than others. Alabama's not one of them. Neither is Florida. You want a liberal state with regard to abortion? Go in one of the blue states. You got the red states and the blue state. Go to a blue state. Get your abortion there. I mean, it's as simple as that. Each state legislature is dealing with it rather than we don't need a national abortion law. We don't need it. And if you do have one, it's going to depend on who's president and, how many senators and how many congressmen can agree to what a national abortion law would look like. I mean, I don't really care if there is one or there isn't one, personally. Practically imagining, being in the baby rearing years, 35 to 50, somewhere in there, 35 to 30, 25 to 40, let's say that, or 20 to 40. Shouldn't be having a kid at 15. So let's say, the baby years are 20 to 40. So if you want to, if you want abortion rules, it depends on who's your president and who your congressmen are, because it has to be approved by Congress to be a national abortion law. And likely it's not going to be, too much later than 16 weeks, because that's in the first trimester. You get too much later than that, you shouldn't be having an abortion. You should have already decided, I'm going to keep this kid. Because otherwise, abortion rules, it's not a prophylactic. Don't get pregnant if you don't want to have kids. There's all kinds of ways of not getting pregnant. There's IUDs, there's contraceptive things that men can put on themselves, and there's things that women can put in themselves. There's all kinds of methods. Spermicides. I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's what this is all about. You know? It's just the liberal method of exciting women into thinking, you know, you need to put a Democrat in the White House because we're going to deal with abortion. No, they're not. You know, it's almost impossible to do. That Roe v. Wade thing's been on the books for over 50 years, and it was, in the legal community, is considered a huge mistake. It was a misapplication of that precedent. You can go back and look at the case, Roe v. Wade, and look at the case, to this side and to that side, read the decision, and then you figure how that can be a national abortion precedent. I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but the little bit I did reading about it, you know, made no sense whatsoever. It was a complete, you know, misinterpretation of that whole case study stuff. The Apple Watch, your vitals, you know, it's amazing because the sensors in the back of the Apple Watch are constantly, not all the time, but, you know, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. It's constantly studying your blood sugar, your pulse, yeah, your blood oxygen levels. I get all that right through my Apple Watch. So it's become very sophisticated. Now we wanted to look at, it does blood oxygen, it does your pulse, but it doesn't do the blood sugar. Continuous glucose monitoring is not actually done with the Apple Watch yet. Have they developed sensors in the new model of an Apple Watch that can actually understand your glucose monitoring for those that are near diabetes or those that just want to know what their blood sugar is? I'm pre-diabetic or diabetic, type 2 diabetic. You know, I used to take insulin until I found and started using Ozempic 6 or 8 months ago, at the beginning of the year. My January 8th, I believe, appointment with Dr. Thomas Lubin, and he prescribed for me Ozempic. I read all about it, and then at my annual physical that he did for me, I said, why don't we try Ozempic? It seems like it's absolutely designed for diabetics. You know, maybe people that have real exaggerated forms of diabetes, but, you know, I'm like on the borderline, but still got to classify me as diabetic because I'm using insulin. And so I started using Ozempic, and guess what? I don't need to, I have, you know, a couple of vials of insulin in my refrigerator, you know, that have basically been untouched for 8 months because Ozempic magically controls your blood sugar. It also slows down your interest in having huge meals, so you have smaller meals. And so your blood sugar is managed by the use of this injection that you give yourself once a week. So I'm on Ozempic for 8 months now, and I'm now up to, after, you know, it takes you 6 or 8 months to get up to the 2 milligram, and dosage. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been at 2 milligrams concentrations with the injections that you give yourself with the Ozempic pen. injection pen. You just stick it in you and you push the button on the top, and it injects the proper amount of Ozempic with a 2 milligram dosage. And I think it injects, three quarters of a milliliter, not much, but it's 2 milligram dosage, which is the, where they want you to be at when you're using Ozempic. But you start off with a quarter milligram, then you go to half a milligram, then you go to 1 milligram, then you go to 2 milligram. So, it's in stages, and it builds up to the 2 milligram, and then you just keep taking 2 milligrams. It manages your blood sugar, keeps your weight under control, feel good, sleep good. It's magic. And you don't have to go to the doctor's office. You can inject yourself. And the needle is a superfine 32 gauge needle. That's about a quarter inch. It's, I think it's 4 millimeters in length, which is roughly a quarter of an inch. And you just dial it up. I have the pen right here. I'm talking about it because this is the Apple Watch manages your blood oxygen, but not your blood sugar. See, this is an empty one because I can look through the middle of the pen there and there's nothing left in there. You just see the white plunger. This is the top of the plunger and there's nothing there. This is the needle. Of course, you can't see the needle. It's a super fine 32 gauge needle. It screws on. I left it assembled. Now I put the cap on and you just screw it right. It screws right on. There's a needle on the inside of that cap. And when you push it in there, it engages with the cylinder of fluid that's used for the injection. You turn the top of the pen. Of course, it won't turn now because it's empty. So it's a little pen. You keep this in the refrigerator. And when you dial this up, you just push this button and it injects through that. You can't feel the needle. It is so fine. It's like the diameter of 2 human hairs. It's a stainless steel, sharpened little needle. And the fluid, actually, there's a hole in the middle of that. But it's only 2, it's the diameter of 2 human hairs. That's the size of the needle. And it only goes in a quarter of an inch or 4 millimeters. So you can't poke it in too far because it'll only go in a quarter of an inch. So it's called a subcutaneous. You're getting a subcutaneous injection, which means it's an injection just under the skin. You're not, the last type of injection I got, that was a real injection, from a doctor or a registered nurse, was for assisting with COVID-19. Back a few years ago when you were taking that virus injection, which didn't prevent you from getting the disease. It just, if you did get it, you wouldn't get a very serious case of it. So it was designed so that the hospitals wouldn't get overloaded. And I don't know whether I did have it. I did test positive one time, so that means I did have it. But because I had those injections, I had a very minor case of it. Just felt like a common cold. And that's the whole idea behind that. Now, years later, everyone's going, it was experimental. Of course it was experimental. It was designed, for the first time in the history of mankind. So, now it's not experimental because you got all kinds of, 50 million people got injected. A lot of people decided I don't want it. Well, that's fine. But there are a lot of people that said they want it. Marilyn and I decided, let's do it. So we took it. Now, that was not a subcutaneous injection. That they injected right in your shoulder muscle. That was designed to inject that right into your muscle. And then that would slowly circulate into your bloodstream because it was injected in the muscle tissue. I don't know the physiology between why you would go subcutaneous or why you would stick it in the muscle. But anyway, those virus drug was designed to be injected in the muscle. And you could see the hypodermic needle was, like a half inch long or 3/4 of an inch long. I mean, they stuck it all the way into the muscle. Not the bone, the muscle. So they had to go in, a good half inch to get through the layer of your skin and eventually into your muscle. They just stick it right in there, and then they push the plunger and put, half a millimeter of that virus drug made by Moderna. I think Moderna is what we had. And then you had virus cards. I mean, it was pretty scary with this virus thing. Millions of people died around the world. This experimental virus that leaked out of China, supposedly. Trump quickly shut down the air. No one from China could fly into the country. They gave him 2-day warning. You want to get in the country, you got 2 days. And then airports are closed. You will not be able to get off the airplane anywhere landing in the United States. Effective in whatever date Trump picked. And they gave him 48 hours notice. I remember that. So you talk about, the Chinese, they wanted to get here. So they're scrambling to get, fill up the airplanes to get to the United States because in 48 hours from that speech, and he shut them down. And he shut them down for quite some time until they figured out, this goddamn virus thing. And they figured it out, and Moderna and I forget the other company came up with this virus. He paid $500 million to cause these two drug companies to come up with this antivirus formula that we could have injected in the entire population of the United States so that the very young didn't need it. It was basically, a disease that killed the elderly. I don't think the very young never got COVID. As a matter of fact, right in through high school, it was just people 50 and older, 50 to 90. If they got it, it could kill them. So I was 70 at the time, so that's over. I'm not in high school. But there are a lot of people in nursing homes and all that. It was killing them off like crazy. And they had the ventilators and all that. So Trump mobilized, the General Electric Company and the Ford Motor Company, and they all got together and were incented. They were given incentives to create and manufacture ventilators for our hospitals for patients that got the disease to such a degree that they couldn't control their own breathing. So they gave them sedatives and they breathed for them. Well, hopefully their bodies could fight through this virus. The injection was not to kill off the virus. It was to help prevent you from getting a serious infection. They weren't injecting in live viruses. It was like something to do with RNA, not DNA, it was RNA. So you ended up with some components of the virus, which then if you got infected with the virus, your body, produced antibodies because of the RNA. So that if you encountered the virus again, you had some antibodies. And in the simple discussion I'm having here, because it's a lot more complicated, you wouldn't get the disease as badly if you had some RNA, because the body then assumed that it had some type of immunity kind of a thing. Anyway, so we had two courses of that. You had to wait 60 days or so. You had one injection, then you had to wait 60 or 90 days, and then you got a second one. So once you had two of them, initially, that was their regimen. We did get it, but we never got it seriously, even though we're both in our 70s. Marilyn might have been 68 or something. Anyway, so that's why I started talking about that. This is 15 practical apps for your college laptop. Well, the first thing I would suggest is get a MacBook Air, 13-inch MacBook Air laptop. Forget any Windows laptops. They're too subject to viruses and hacking and all that stuff. If you get, spend $800 or whatever and get a nice MacBook Air 13-inch with 8 gigabytes of memory and 500 gigabytes of storage, it'd be under $1,000, I guess. I'll figure it out today and tell you tomorrow. And get a 13-inch computer, an Apple MacBook Air. I'll tell you a configuration that's perfectly suited for college work. Not industrial work, but college work. And, my MacBook Air has 24 gigabytes of memory. I don't think you need 24 gigabytes of memory. So you can say 24 gigabytes of memory cost, to, $600 extra dollars. Well, you don't need to spend that extra. You could get along with, 8 or 10 gigabytes of memory instead of 24 gigabytes. Now, with all the stuff that's going on in my MacBook right now, I'm using 14 of those 24 gigabytes. So that's good. I'm using it around 60% capacity. That's exactly what I wanted. That's why I got the 24 gigabytes. That's what I need, which was all you could get, actually. That was the maximum limit you could get when I got this a year ago or so, which replaced some other. Oh, I had a Hewlett Packard one that I carried around for like 10 years teaching at FAU. This MacBook Air is magnificent. It's really doing a lot of things at once, and I can feel a little. If I have my hands right over here, I can feel a little bit of heat, but very little. Maybe running at 90 degrees, 92 degrees. It's 68 in this room. So maybe this whole chassis is running, 20 degrees above ambient temperature, 70, 80, 90, 20 degrees maybe. But there's no fans. is strictly heat dissipation into this aluminum shell. So it's silent because there are no fans. That's something that Steve Jobs would have insisted on. No fans. But they had to put fans. They still have fans. They're flat and they're silent, but they're still fans because they haven't quite got the electronics so that the heat can just dissipate in the structure of the laptop itself. But MacBook Air with 24 gigabytes of memory has got that solved. You know, they with silicone, heat conductive silicone, jelly. They've got the processors, strapped up against the underside of this aluminum bar. And then this whole aluminum shell. And as I bring my fingers down here, it's not as warm as it is, a little warmer as you get up in here. And if I just flow my fingers over this keyboard, I can feel. I used to have a thing that measures the temperature, but I can't get it to run on this version of the software. So it gives me stuff, but I don't know how to read it. And I don't know how to set the parameters. I guess I should throw out a question to the world. And I can see I'm throwing up about 8 kilobytes per second up into the internet with this broadcast and this video content. All right, I'm done. 2 hours and a half. I need to wet my whistle, even though I've been sipping quietly on my my tea here. Hope you enjoyed this some portion of this 2 hour thing. I don't expect everybody to listen to all of it, but in time, people will go back and listen to it because there's going to be a time when it'll cease to be. We do have a life cycle, and so I'm not doing much else. So I do this broadcasting every morning, and I will be back tomorrow. And we'll look at that. Red Lobster's shutting down another 23 restaurants. But they still have like 600 outlets. So they went from, like 800 to 600. So they had to cut back 25% of their restaurants. So they're in bankruptcy, so they can close up the duds. They opened up in markets that never really caught on. So they can pick and choose and get rid of the bad ones. So hopefully the surviving entity that comes out of bankruptcy will not have the drag on their cash flow to finance, for the bad ones. They're not operating past. Restaurants got to be its average 60 to 80% occupancy, as far as customer counts. When they drop below 50%, 40%, then that's considered a dud. And they made a mistake, in their marketing to figure out whether that was a good location or not. And sometimes they don't pick good locations. They're hard to get into, get out of. Traffic's too fast. Can't make left turns, can't make right turns, whatever. So real estate people have to be very cognizant of picking the right real estate location so that you don't have to cross traffic to turn into your driveway. If you got to cross traffic, it better be easy to do. And the highway better not be a congested one. Or there needs to be a traffic signal so that it can ease. So you end up with left turns into your driveways, controlled by red lights, green lights, and arrows. That helps big time. All right, that's the Red Lobster. We'll end on the Red Lobster story. So with that, we're going to say goodbye. And Oh my God. Tomorrow we'll talk about the robots. That's a very interesting story. All right, I'll try to remember that. Robots tomorrow. Sorry, Bob. So it's Monday. It's August 26th. It's 1:30. It's about 1:40 p.m. In 12 seconds. So you all, I hope, had a nice lunch while you're listening to Jimmy Yickety Yakety. You know, you can always send me a text message and say, why don't you talk about X or Y? I'll get the text message. It'll be confidential if you want it. If you don't care, I'll read your text message anonymously. I'll read it over the air so that your question can be asked. I'll put it up on the screen, and then confidentially, so they don't know, your name or contact number, other than Fred or whatever. Says, hey, what's up? What happened with Red Lobster? Yeah. There were 3 stores that closed up in Florida, by the way, and they were all on the west coast of Florida. Surrounding the outskirts of the Tampa marketplace, but not Tampa itself, just the west coast, and some of the 17 counties that surround Hillsborough County. Tampa is Hillsborough County. We got a Hillsborough County over here, but it's not the last few letters of the word Hillsborough are spelled differently. Okay. Have a nice afternoon.